welcome back to the Week 5 edition of the TCL podcast. I have a very special guest today. It's his first time on the show. First time, long time. It's, what's your team name? Show Me Your TDs? Or is that in the other league?
Show me your TDs. No, that's in all my leagues. That's my team name across it is Show me your TDs. I've
How
had
many
that
years have
since
you had that now?
actually the funny thing is my at time wife came up with that fantasy football team name for me. Like I was like joined my first fantasy football league and she was like I was like I got to come up with a good name and she started doing some things and she's like how about Show me your TDs and I was like I love it. Let's go with it. And it's been the team name for a lot of my leagues for 8, 9, 10 years now playing.
Wow.
Yeah, 8, 9 years. So
How long have you been playing fantasy football in general? Do you remember?
uh, I would say it's been about 10 years. I was always doing on ESPN. We did the pick'ems where you'd go in and pick like your new lineup each week.
Mm-hmm.
Started that doing that, and then got into fantasy football right after that. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, so around probably what, 2012, 2013, something like that.
yeah, something like that.
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, well, welcome. Hopefully, it lives up to the hype of everything you've always dreamed of. I know you didn't get a chance to do it last year, but I feel like you're a good, solid co-host for this, so I think you're gonna do good. At least, I hope you do. We'll see how the league reacts to your episode. If we have the
Yeah, let's
most,
see the how they take my popular takes and bold outcomes for the remainder of this season. I don't know if they will or not. They may say, "Hey,
yeah.
that guy can never be on the show again," but we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll do picks with friends. We'll do an update on picks with friends. Then we'll go over week 5. Talk a little bit about how the week shaped up. A lot of big events, both injuries, results, all that to talk about. And then I got a couple fun questions for you because you're also a commissioner. Um, so that'll be a good one. And then we'll go hand out the week 5 awards like we always do. And I think you might actually be receiving one this week. We'll see. Um, and then go finish up with week 6 preview. And yeah, go from there. So let's do the picks with friends. So we just talked about this, but we both picked the same games basically. Um, so that was probably short sighted. That was also my bad. So I'll take an extra L right now. I'll just give myself an automatic L for not sending you the picks earlier. So sorry about that because I sent them to Jory.
Yeah, I think it was like 11:20, and kickoff's like I don't know. I actually think kickoff
It might have been later,
about to happen.
honestly.
He's like, "Hey, by the way,
Hey,
I need all these picks in," and I'm like, "Well, shoot, let's just fire chat, boom, let's do this real quick." So
yeah, I kind of did the same thing. So it ended up working out because we both picked similar teams, or basically the same teams, but we both did not great. So a couple of them we differed, but let's start with the first one: Texans Falcons. Did you watch in this game? I know you were watching because your boy Bijan's. You got to watch every Bijan game.
uh, I did watch this one, and I thought the Texans were gonna play a lot better. I had some faith in C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and Tank Dell went down with an injury in that game. So, um,
Oh, he
you
did. Oh,
know,
wow! I didn't even
he
realize
did.
that.
I don't really know if it's anything serious, but Nico didn't have a big day, and he, that's the thing with those two teams though. When you're looking at it, I was like, I could have tossed a coin, and it probably would have been better choice than what I probably went with. But like I
Yeah.
said, there's a lot of teams that it's just like you don't know what you're gonna get week in and week out. Like what team's gonna show up. I think Jacksonville's in there as well, and a couple other teams, but
It's
that was
like
just
the
a hard
whole
game to
AFC
pick.
South, honestly.
Yep. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think.
close your eyes, throw a dart. Oh, I hit it. There we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nico Collins definitely is in that category of he is the definition of boomer bust. Like when he does well, he does really well, and if you left him on the bench, you feel like an idiot. But when he does bad and you start him, you also feel like an idiot. So that's probably just fantasy football in general. But he's a very good example of that. And I think you have him in TCL, and I have him in your league. So we both know the Nico Collins experience well. I was surprised how
Yep.
like not. I guess I don't know his final stat line, but I was really surprised how not well Bijan did. Like he really didn't play very well, like at all.
Well, I think as you're going to see it evolve more in the season, and I hate unpopular take for B. John owners out there for the rest of the season. I don't think he's going to have the productivity that he's going to have the rest of the season because same thing with like Jordan Love. You've gotten 5 weeks of film on him now. You know what he does well. You know what he doesn't do well. And teams are now going to start preparing for it. And they're like, Falcons, Bijan's not going to beat us. We're going to make Riddle throw the ball around. And if he does that and he beats us, great. But we're not going to let them pound the ball on us. So
Yeah,
unpopular take. I think Bijan's going to have some tough weeks coming up, just because he's going to have loaded boxes and multiple, coverages on him. But it's going to come down to Riddler, having to throw the ball and spread it out to open up that run game for Bijan, which not sure if he can do or not consistently. So
yeah, he
that's
did
a
it. He
concern
did
for
it
me
in
if
this
you're a
game.
Bijan owner. So sorry, Joe Wise.
Yeah, yeah. He bought a lot of Joe Wise stock, or sorry, Bijan stock. But you know what? I hope all of Joe Wise's stocks crash and burn. So, um, yeah, Desmond Ritter definitely answered the call this week though. So I'll be interested to see if he can keep it up. But 26 points for him, so it wasn't too bad. Next one was Colts and oh gosh, who would the Colts play? The Titans. So another AFC South. We're just a lot of AFC South teams, but I guess big one from this one was Anthony Richardson got hurt, and the return of Jonathan Taylor. Both not so good.
Yeah. I didn't expect Jonathan Taylor to do anything. I have him in one league. I put him on the bench this week. I'm probably going to give him 2 or 3 weeks before I insert him in the lineup and see kind of how that plays out. But he did sign the contract extension. So if you have Jonathan Taylor, that's a positive thing to look out for the remainder of the season. And I think Jonathan Taylor could be a lead winning back for you down the stretch later in the season as he gets his feet, under him and he's running. And especially if Anthony Richardson comes back and they have that duo back there running the ball.
Yeah,
Taylor's not going to have as many loaded boxes as he did before because you can't because you have to count for Richardson now. So, um, I think Taylor could be a back that wins a lot of people leagues later in the season. I'm just going to sit and wait and see what kind of happens with that before inserting him into the lineup. But I thought the Colts were going to do well. Anthony Richardson went down, and that kind of you know wrote the story for him. So
yeah. They still won. I honestly don't think they're too bad with Gardner Minshew. Like he's good
no.
enough for what they do. And going back to the Jonathan Taylor point, I think you're right. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I want him to do well, but he's got the talent. One, and then two, I think their offense is set up for two backs to kind of like it's almost like they're like the Falcons, just like better, right? Like with a better QB
Hmm.
because they have the Algier Robinson combo. Same thing. Moss is not like I don't know how you can justify taking him out of the lineup, right? Like if you're uh, who's it Shane Steichen, their coach. Uh, I don't know how you justify taking him out when he's freaking running for 130 yards every
Well,
game.
I think you look at what the Eagles did last year. When they had a lot of two back sets. Moss getting the fake handoff, Taylor going off on the wheel route. So I think you're going to see a lot of catchers from Taylor they're going to utilize them at the same time in the backfield. And then you have that Richardson that can run. That would be a nightmare for defenses to have to scheme up and be patient. Holding your assignment. So
Yeah,
I definitely think the Colts could be good. I just think a lot of youth there, which is promising for them. So.
yeah. The big thing I think for me would be I think one with Minshew, I think it actually creates more upside for Moss and Taylor because they're going to be more
Mhm.
leverage on them, and hopefully that teaches them that even though Anthony Richardson is a great run threat, like pick your spots, right? Like maybe more red zone focused, or maybe more later in the game or something once the defense is tired out a little bit, because that's twice now he's gotten hurt, and so hopefully that means that they will be a little bit more careful with him. Although that is his biggest strength, right? So I definitely see why they use him in that regard. But from the Titans side, I think I guess Derrick Henry a little bit surprising. Tajay Spears is getting like 50% of the touches, like pretty much. Like I think I said this in a different episode, but look at the snap percentage. He had 52% of the snaps this past week. So that's an interesting one as far as for future. Like he finally got his first touchdown of his career, but he's usually good for like 8 or 9 points just on his own, just because he's getting enough touches.
Yeah, I think everybody's fear with Derrick Henry when you've been drafting him in the last 4 or 5 years is when do the Titans take back the workload? And maybe this is the year that we see that, like what you mentioned. So that's why I avoided Henry because I just felt like the volume that he's had the last 3 years just can't be withstand again. And so like either the Titans have to make a choice there and have fresh legs if they're going to make a playoff run. I think Derrick Henry with fresher legs in the playoffs would be better. So they have to make that tough decision and. I think splitting it. I think the way the NFL is going nowadays, I think you're going to start seeing that where it's going to be hard to really hone in on what running back I should take because I don't think the true bell cow is going to be there anymore. So it's going
Now,
to be difficult for fantasy owners in the future to figure that out.
yeah, for sure. I think that's it's funny because you probably could have said the same thing about Derrick Henry last year. It's like, oh, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Like he's been, he's regressing or whatever, and he still I think finished like third best running back or something like RB 3 or 4 or something like that.
Hmm.
But this year, definitely they are a lot more cautious with him, which I think in like a game where they're doing well and they're ahead, he's probably going to get the majority of the bulk of the work. But like when they're like behind or even in a close game, they're going to give Spears a lot of touches because he's their like receiving back, right? So he's going to get those catches too. So um, yeah, the Titans are a weird one because they seem like they would be horrible, right? Just based on what you think of their team, like perception. But they're not horrible. At least they're 2-3. So I know they just lost to the Colts, but not terrible. DeAndre Hopkins also had a good game. You're welcome, by the way.
He did have a good game. Thank you. In our league.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time talking about your other league, but yeah, that was. I thought to myself on Sunday, I was like, oh, perfect. DeAndre Hopkins finally has a big game after I got rid of him. So great.
The
The
problem is
next,
Tannehill, so
yeah, I still wouldn't want to bet long term on them, but hey, it is what it is. Um, the next one was speaking of ugly games. Baltimore and Pittsburgh. We both picked the Ravens, and we both got it wrong somehow.
not sure how
I
that
don't even
happened.
know what to say about this game.
I'm done. I it was that's a garbage fire in Pittsburgh, and somehow that they've taunted me a couple weeks. I've lost some money on that Pittsburgh team, trusting them, and then didn't trust them the next week, and it's yeah that whole division along with like the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals, who are
Maybe
should be
back?
dominating,
Question
not,
mark.
and then you have Matt, yeah, and
The Browns.
then you have
The Browns.
Cleveland, Browns, which I don't think anybody wants to win that division. So uh it's gonna be but again, those are rivalry games, anything can happen and Steelers showed up, but I
Yes.
think definitely the Ravens gave that game away. So
Yeah, did I don't know if you saw this. I saw it on TikTok, but it was like a clip of Matt Canada in the like in the booth or whatever with
oh
all
yeah,
like
not
other
excited.
when they scored the touchdown. He was the only one who was just like, and then somebody had to be like, "Hey, you're on TV. Like, at least pretend to look excited." And then he didn't even really try. He was like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, great." Uh, that was probably the best part of the weekend was just that clip. But yeah, the Steelers. I mean, I like George
They look
Pickens a
great in
lot.
preseason. I was excited.
Yeah, George
I was
Pickens
excited
and
for
Pickett
Pickens. I
look
was
good.
excited for Pickett. They looked and then the season started and they've just looked
To,
off. I Pickens is so much talent. It's at the point where Pickett's just got to throw the ball to the guy. Give him enough chances, he's gonna
just
make something happen.
just
So
force feed him, right? Like they targeted him
mhm.
10 times. He had 6 catches, 130 yards and a touchdown. Like he didn't even really look like
Yeah,
he tried that hard to get that right. And he was matched up with probably Peters the whole time. So, I mean, I don't know of many corners that can match up with a guy like George Pickens when he's like 6'3" and 200 pounds and runs like Calvin Johnson. You know what I mean? So, uh, yeah, that one was a tough one for both of us as we both bet on that one. I think the only other player of note to mention here is Steelers defense looked great, 21 points. Next one. I'm recording now. All right, sorry about that, guys. The editing will probably make that look less dramatic, but almost lost Joey there due to some technical issues. So we got you back now, Joey.
Yep, I'm back, guys. Sorry about that.
No worries. So we were talking about the next game, which I think was Rams Eagles, and you picked the Eagles smartly. I picked the Rams. I was mainly banking on Cooper Cup to will the Rams to victory, but alas, not to be. Oh, are you?
To,
Oh,
to go. Yep, I'm here. Yeah, so on that game, I really wanted to go Rams. 'Cause Cooper Cup coming back and thought maybe Matthew Stafford and them could pull something off, but at the end of the day, I went the Eagles. I just don't think the Rams have enough on defense now to stop them, and I just didn't feel like the Rams had enough to. The Eagles seem to this season to find a win in every game, so it's hard to go against them right now. Uh, and they look. I don't think they look unbeatable, but they just found a way to win games. So
yeah, it's actually kind of funny because if you think about it, the Eagles, I was just about to say, look very vulnerable, right? They look like they're definitely not as good as they were last year. I think part of it also is that they were playing a harder schedule, right? So they're not just able to just steamroll people. But I think against better teams, they're going to run into some issues. Like, they're not as efficient offensively. Jalen Hurts looks like he's having to do a lot more, and we'll see how good he does doing that. But yeah, I think you're right. The Rams were okay, not great, but Cooper Cup looked good for his first game back.
yeah, excited for Cooper Cup owners. You've waited and you've had him sitting there for 4 weeks. He comes back uh and everybody that went and picked up no, I'm gonna butcher his name, Anuka or
Puka Nakua.
the big phenom that came in and Puka Nakua, the big phenom that came in. I think they'll still be used together. But those owners there are like hurting. They probably didn't want Cooper Cup to come back, but um, Cooper Cup's a different animal, different stratosphere as that guy. So excited
Yes.
to have Cooper Cup back, and I know Matthew Stafford is too. So
Yes, for sure. I think that was the one that was least surprising when he came back. Like the Jonathan Taylor one was definitely like temper your expectations, right? He hasn't played with his team in what seems like almost a year now, and there was definitely a ramping up process. But Cooper Cup just basically picked up where he left off, so that was nice to see, especially after being out the first 4 weeks of the season. But yeah, I think. The Rams will be intriguing, but I think you're right. They just need a little bit more, but they're definitely not tanking. So good for fantasy purposes, at least. The next one we can spend a small amount of time on was San Francisco versus Dallas. We both picked Dallas. We got that one wrong. I don't have much to say on that one other than what's already been said by
next
everyone.
question.
Brock Purdy's still system quarterback. But yeah. Anyway, the last one that we picked, and this was, I don't know if you watched any of it, was the Packers Raiders game last night. Did you watch any of that game?
Wife's a Packers fan. Watched that game.
Oh,
Um,
so at least you
and
enjoyed, at least you
I
got
fell
to enjoy
asleep.
them getting their ass kicked.
Yeah. I think there needs to be a rule change. I'm gonna say it in here. I feel like if a guy is breaking away to an end zone and has an open touchdown and you draw a penalty to stop the guy from scoring, I think you should get the touchdown. And again, I get it. It's a smart defensive play, right? But he made the horse collar knowing that was his only chance. Got the penalty, which as a defender you're supposed to do. You get beat on a route corner, you get the pass interference, live another down, hopefully we can get the goal line stop. But that's the difference in that game. 3 points to a touchdown, they're tied, they go into overtime. You never know what happens. So overall, it was a sloppy game on both sides. Jordan Love, again, like I mentioned before, now you have 4 weeks of film on him. I think teams are going to be more prepared. It's going to be a lot harder. Packers are going to have a lot of growing bumps with that young team, but that very promising. But unpopular take to me is I feel like how you bail defense can get bailed out by a penalty that's not going to matter, and it affects the offense and from that guy scoring. So on such a good play too. So
I'm with you there. So I didn't even see the play, but I do agree that that's a rule in hockey and other sports too, where it's kind of like, hey, if you're gonna do it right, like if you in soccer, if you get a handball trying to stop a goal, like it's still gonna be a goal, right? Or at least you get a penalty kick as a result. So, who was about to score? I guess I didn't see that.
Watson was on the play. Jordan Love rolled out, hit Watson. They were down at their 10. He basically took it almost 85 yards to the house, and the defender at the last second grabbed on the back of the shoulder pads where the horse collar pulled him down at the 5 by a horse collar, which nobody in front of him, he would have scored. They get the horse collar penalty, but that doesn't do anything at the 5. So basically, it was a wash of a penalty, and they got the ball right where they would have gotten it to begin with. So, nobody there, open lane, touchdown. He, of course, grabs the horse collar to bring him down. The only way he was going to bring him down was by grabbing inside the shoulder pad, which, as a defender, you're taught to do that. Like you got beat, at least save the touchdown, right? So I
Yeah,
get it. Until they make a rule change, it is what it is. So
yeah. Now that's a tough one, especially not that it mattered in my matchup, but definitely Watson touchdown would have been nice, especially after him being out, similar to Cooper Cup for the first 3-4 weeks of the season. So glad that Christian Watson at least is doing what Christian Watson thinks. So other fantasy implications, Josh Jacobs looked pretty good. Jacoby Myers had the touchdown. Actually, had a prop on Jacoby Myers touchdown, which I was excited about because I'm like, oh, now I'm going to get it. Jordan Love and Christian Watson are for sure getting theirs. I just needed that one touchdown, and I thought for sure I had it in the bag. And of course, the Packers did about as bad as you could. Jordan Love looked pretty rough.
yeah,
Let's go to the fantasy
basically a rookie
matchups.
quarterback.
Yeah, he's still a rookie. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Different beast once you start playing real games. So first matchup we had was me versus Joe, and I think I had told some others, but I was definitely not not set up well for this one overall. I left some people on the bench too, but I also started Jonathan Taylor just because in my head I was like, I'm already 4-0, like whatever. But you picked Joe. I also picked Joe, knowing that that's probably a bias, but oh well. Um, yeah, what do you think of this one? I think overall it was the Diggs and Allen show that carried Joe for the most part, and Jared Goff,
Yeah,
of
the
course.
stack. I love the QB stacks. Yeah, I love that QB stack. I wish I could have it with Tua and Hill. Especially good offenses, you live and die by it. But the Bills have figured it out now. So, the way I look at Joe's team, he's very consistent. If you look at it, he didn't really have any guys really just blow up and go off, but they consistently do what they need to be doing and they put up the
Mm-hmm.
points, which is a scary team you want to play at any point in the season. That's just because again, if he gets one of those guys that goes for 40 or 50, you're probably not catching him because his other guys are consistently scoring. So,
Right.
um, and then Justin Jefferson injury didn't help you either. I think he's
No,
now is he on the IL? They haven't done
I
that announced that yet. Okay.
I believe they did. I believe they did announce it. I woke up to that news, which was always tough when you see the notifications on your phone, and it's he's going to be out for 4 weeks. So that'll be a tough one. But I should have known that I got Jonathan Taylor back, that something bad was going to happen. Yeah, the only other funny one was my little tool that I use for setting the lineup, like sit start questions or whatever. Told me to sit Dak Prescott in place of Brock Purdy, but I just refused out of principle, and that did me really well. So that was fun. Next one.
Again, in a hindsight, it wouldn't have mattered. So
No, it wouldn't have mattered at all for the matchup, but would have made it a little closer. Maybe would have mattered a little bit for the final season scoring, because that definitely hurt my total score
at
for total points in the season.
least he didn't beat you by 100 in this league.
Yes, that's true, because that's already happened to me. So Joe, enjoy your Super Bowl. I am your Super Bowl, so enjoy that. Next one was Taylor versus Maish. I know I don't think you know Maish, but Zonka's. We always joke with him that this is his year to like finally prove that he's good at fantasy, because he like watches a ton of football. Like he knows players, like knows teams, like he watches the games, but for whatever reason, just always either too big brains it or what. But Taylor finally gets off the schneid and gets his first win over Zonkas this week. We both picked Zonkas to win, by the way.
Yeah, pick Zonkas, but now looking at it and really analyzing it before coming onto the show, T Web has just had some bad strains of luck. If you look at him, I think he's got the most points scored against him in the league so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think T Web he catches some luck later. I think he'll work his way out of the cellar, and he might even push for a playoff spot. So
I could see
I think he's
that.
got the team to do it. Just looking at it, he just had some bad luck. He's gone up against the guys that have scored. I'm in that boat too. I've won a couple of games, but I've seen every time I lose, I'm losing to either the guy that scored the most or the second most points in the league. So, and that's fantasy football. But hopefully his luck turns and he can get some more W's. But I think it's just one of many to come for the rest of the season for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you'd think with Zonka's doing 28 from Jalen Hurts and 36 from Travis Etienne, you'd think, oh, okay, well, they got it, right? But everybody else pretty much didn't show up, maybe outside of Kirk Cousins. So he left McLaughlin on the bench. Not that, well, it would have mattered if he had put McLaughlin in maybe for Sanders, but it would have been a tight one nonetheless. Yeah, for Taylor's team, Cooper Cup's back. Kamara's now cooking. Sam Laporta, pickup of the year maybe at the tight end position.
Hmm.
Jacoby Myers had that touchdown like we mentioned, and Hopkins even had a good game. So good week for Taylor. Good to get that first win of the season. I know the feeling. Cooper Cup led me to my first win of the season as well in a different league. So shout out to the Goblin modes. Um, okay, so we both missed that one. Last two here: Grant versus Fappy Baby, and this one wasn't even close.
No, and Grant keeps his undefeated streak, and the whole thing you worry about Grant is
Who's he gonna have play
what's
quarterback?
he gonna do at quarterback? Because yeah, who's he gonna have play quarterback?
I mean, to be
um,
honest, he may not even need more
you
than one,
know,
right? He may just keep C.J. Stroud in and just roll with Flex, just being another receiver or something.
that's true. Evans questionable, Boyd, um,
There's a couple options. I mean,
yeah,
you can
he's
pick
hurting
up some
there.
guys too. He hasn't really done much on the waivers, so I'm curious of that one. But yeah,
No,
his team from a
but Christian McCaffrey's gonna carry him, and Derrick Henry's gonna carry. He's I think later in the season he'll get back to where it is again. Titans very game or like how's the game going? Like you mentioned earlier, are they ahead? Henry's going to get fed. If not, you're going to kind of see his touches go down. So,
yeah, I'm
um,
surprised McCaffrey. I didn't realize McCaffrey only
overall,
had 13 points.
yeah, didn't do much. Kittle killed us, killed the Cowboys. So,
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
no, but
that's
I
his
think
Super
Grant
Bowl too.
is a tough team to beat this year. Again, very consistent team week in and week out, just getting his points, right? I think that's the biggest thing is can you hit what you're projected to hit? And if you can do that most weeks, you're probably going to have a good chance at winning. So, um, I think Grant's going to have a good chance. It's just going to come down to, how he does with the injuries and how he weathers that for the next couple of weeks and until Richardson comes back. I think they said it was a sprain, so they're saying possibly sit him on the shelf for 1 to 2 weeks, but
I think
Colts are
he's
saying
already
he
for
could play
sure
next week
out
if
next
they
week.
need him to. So
I think they said
okay,
he's for sure out
yeah.
this
So
week, but
if the Colts are smart, yeah, I would see he'd be out 2 to 3 weeks in my book, but we'll see what happens. You don't want to rush him back too
yeah.
fast. So
And like we mentioned earlier, hopefully they learn their lesson and stop. I mean, he's going to do a little bit of it too, but they hopefully stop trying to just force feed him runs when they have two running backs and they just paid one 26 million guaranteed. So, uh,
yep.
all right, last one before we finish up here is Tony versus Andrew. And this is the Busty Latinas, formerly named, versus the 089 289s. Uh, did you have a feel for this one at all? Or did you just kind of pick it based on what do you call it? On reputation.
I think a little bit of reputation went into that one. And then when I was looking at the squads lining up this week and who was playing who, I felt like Tony had a really good chance in this week. So, um, yeah, he could. Tony could even had a bigger week with Romeo Dobbs going off a little bit. He hurt with
And
that.
Zach
He is
Moss.
the games. He had Zach Moss on the bench.
Yeah.
So 33 points. I know how that goes. Feel that one.
If he had lost that
Sometimes you
one,
sit
that
the
would
wrong
have
people on the bench,
definitely
or
won. Yeah, if he had lost that matchup, it would have definitely been bench of the week right there. But alas, he did not. He still was able
yeah.
to pull it out. But yeah,
So
I
yeah,
agree. Joe Burrow got right though. Finally,
I'm worried about Joe Burrow. I think if anybody knows from the Cowboys, when Dak had his calf injury, that thing lingers. You might have a good day, and then it fires up, and you have a bad day. So I'm worried about Joe Burrow, which also hurts Jamar Chase and a lot of those Cincy owners. So that whole offense goes as Joe goes. So hopefully this is Joe. He is good, but like anybody knows with those calves, they can fire right back up at the wrong time. So hopefully Joe stays healthy. Joe Burrow stays healthy. Don't want to wish an injury, but I know how calf injuries linger. So
for
especially
sure.
watching Dak go through his. So
For sure. No, I think that will definitely play a role in how that season plays out. I mean, I think if you're dependent on Joe Burrow, like your team's gonna go like similar to his own team, right? It's gonna go as far as he'll take you. But yeah. So with that, to wrap up the picks with friends, we finished the week. I finished the week at 4-6. Jory finished at 5-5. I gave myself an extra loss because I sent him the picks late. So that puts the league total at 28 and 22, and that puts my total at 29 and 21. So just a game separating the league and me for picks. So we'll see how that plays out. I wish I would have done worse for you guys so that you could have a lead, but sorry. Next week Joe's gonna do it, so knowing Joe, he'll probably get them all right, and I'll be well behind.
in the hole.
Cool. So hopefully not, but that's it for picks with friends. Now, for week 5, I think we'll talk about a little bit more in the weekly awards. But I think from a winner's standpoint, it's got to be Nick putting up 218 points. Honorable mention to Joe putting up 173 points as far as best weeks. And then from a loser standpoint, I think definitely me not getting to 100. You got to call that out. It's pretty lame. And then my other one, sorry, Fabi Baby, 116. They're now dropped to 1-4. Not a great year for previous champions. Any other callouts for week 5 before we jump into
It's
your
not.
prompts?
Man, went to a buzzsaw against Nick. So that's all I can say. And sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. But I was looking at it, I was the most least effective manager last week. Of course, had DJ Moore on the bench, so that's a whopping 50 points almost that you left there. But yeah, it's no. Last week was, you see what you see, and excited for you move on to this week and get into a new week and reset button, right? So hopefully get a W this week.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm looking at it now, and even though Nick had a 97% accuracy, if he had set his perfect lineup, he would have scored 225.12 points. You with a 69 nice percent accuracy. If you had set your perfect lineup, you would have had 224.82. So still would have lost, but man, what a performance from both teams, even without the DJ Moore start, which is a tough one. In your league, I asked Nick earlier in the week. I'm like, should I bench DJ Moore? Like he's on probation with me. Like I don't trust him. And then he told me to do it, and I'm glad I listened to him. Yeah.
I was going to do it too. If y'all don't know, I had the flu, so I was out sick last week. And I remember Thursday morning looking at my lineup going, I'm going to put DJ Moore where Aaron Jones is at because I don't think Aaron Jones is going to play. And then I took Dayquil or Nyquil or something and passed out and woke up to a notification of Justin Fields just threw a touchdown pass to DJ Moore. I was like, no, 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 knowing that I had not switched my lineup. So,
Oh
um,
man, that's tough.
you know, hindsight, it didn't matter. I wouldn't have won with DJ Moore being in the lineup. I still would have lost. Um, but it would have hurt a lot more if I would have won, and it had been that me not making that just quick change and just doing it. So,
Yeah,
'cause you
sneak
know how it is.
pre.
You mull it over, you think about it, and
Well, it's always hindsight's
so
2020, right? Like when you're doing it, you think, "Oh, what if I did this? What if I did that?" And then at the time, you can't even imagine that being a difference. So, um, no, for sure, that's a tough one. That just a little spoiler that may be the bench of the week, even though that isn't didn't affect the matchup too much, but just because of the amount of points DJ Moore put up. But let's switch gears here. So I want to jump into this because you are also a commissioner, and I've mentioned this league before several times on the pod, but you are also a commissioner of a different fantasy football league, very similar to the TCL, the sister league, I would call it, to the TCL. So I have a couple of prompts for you as far as being a commissioner and kind of some things related to that. So let me just jump right in here. So as a commissioner, what's your least favorite thing about being a commissioner? I'll start with least just because there's probably more bad than good. And then maybe your favorite thing about being a commissioner.
yeah. Least favorite thing, collecting dues. I don't know if any commissioner likes collecting the dues and hounding people for money. Um,
That's a good one.
Collecting dues is right up there. Every season where I restart the league, I'm like, why do I do this to myself? And then I think it's always you can't make the whole league happy. Like we've had this discussion before. It's like, you want to make a change that you think is going to better the league or make it more competitive or more fun, and then you put it out there, and of course everybody's like, no, I don't like that. Just for reference, our league went to super flex this season, and it was like half and half of the teams, didn't want it, and they were complaining, and um, so you deal with that. But once the season gets going and everything's kind of running itself, it's great. I would say the worst part is the beginning of the season and lining up the draft date, the time, trying to accommodate everybody as much as you can. I know you go through that, so
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's a good one too. And you know what? I will say before you answer your favorite thing, One thing I will say I'm thankful for is that our league is definitely low on the trade drama. I don't know if it's just on Reddit where you see a lot of it, but I see so much trade drama and people just acting so childish about either trades or they don't think this is fair or that's fair and trying to veto trades that they don't think is good or whatever. So I'm glad that we don't have that. Honestly, if people did that, I would just kick them out of the league, just because we just don't play that shit here.
No, and I think too, um, I hate the leagues that have the veto buttons where you can vote and veto. I feel like if two owners come to an agreement and they feel like, hey, they want to make this trade, unless it's like where I feel like it's a situation to where I feel like somebody's just giving this person away, maybe we can think about it. But if two teams come together and they want to make a trade and they say, hey, we've talked this over, we want this, by all means, boom, click, right? It's
Yeah,
not my team, so.
exactly. It's not our place to say, "Hey, this is a fair trade for you. This is not a fair trade for you." Right? As long as it's not outright cheating, in my opinion, it should be between the two managers. So,
100%.
so is that what would you say is your favorite thing about being a commissioner, if anything?
I don't know if there's many things that I don't think there's many things that
It's like a
I
teacher.
enjoy. Yeah,
It's like a
I don't
thankless
like
job.
being commissioner. If I could pass the duties on in that league and not be the commissioner, I think I may. Uh, no, no, I think the thing with the commissioner is you always have a place to play as the commissioner, right? And you always have a league, so you're never outside of the outside looking in, trying to find a league, right? You have your own league, you created it and formed it, and you can kind of make decisions as well, right? Like I think you did it this year when we went down to 10 and you added the extra flex spot in there, right? I think that fun part of like, hey, how can I make the league better and how can I make it more competitive or more fun? Um, is what I enjoy, right? I enjoy fantasy football. I enjoy getting together, talking trash to each other. I think it's always fun. And if I can do a little part of that to get a league together that allows it, I think that's the best part of commissioners getting everybody together. So
Yeah, for sure. I would actually agree that being favorite thing. I think my least favorite I just mentioned was you mentioned too was the dues, but I think the trade stuff, which we don't really deal with too much, and then yeah, I'd say favorite thing too is just for me is same very similar like figuring out and tinkering with how to make it more competitive, how to make it more fun, how to make it from top to bottom, right? Because there's tryhards like me and Nick and you who we're in the weeds and we're looking at we're up till 4 a.m. looking at stats, and there's people who are just doing this for fun and maybe donating their dues, but I personally think it's not just for the tryhards, it's for everybody, right? So uh, that's our commissioner soapbox. So go thank a commissioner today or tomorrow or next time you see a commissioner, shake their hand and say thanks for what you do. Or the or just buy them a Coke or something. Um, let's go to the next prompt, and this one is a little bit interesting because this can kind of be open ended. I'm more curious to hear. You don't have to give away your secrets of who you're betting big on, as far as from a waiver standpoint or anything like that. But who are your big bets for the rest of season in terms of TCL teams? Maybe like one or two TCL teams that you're really like. If you're an outside observer, you would say, "Hey, this is who I would think is got a really good shot to win the league." And then same thing for players that you think who could be league winners going forward.
yeah, I did some thought on this. And the good thing about this league and playing in this league for the last couple of years is it's really competitive. So I honestly feel like if you can get into the playoffs in this league, you honestly have a really good shot, especially with 10 teams. Like everybody's teams can withstand one or two injuries. Um, and like you've seen it, anybody can go off any week. So it's just a matter of I would really have to dig deep and go into like, hey, who's got the best playoff matchups to really say get into two teams that I feel like have a really good chance of um, doing damage or being real, top two teams. I think Joe Wise is up there. I think he's got to infinity beyond. I think he's got a really good squad that's very consistent. And then I think Grant 5-0 in this league right now, and he's got through it by consistency. So I think those two teams just week in and week out score points and they are consistent with it. I think you have a really good shot. My only worry about you is, the Jefferson and how long that goes, and do they shut them down because the
Yeah.
Vikings are done for this season, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Very real
some
concern.
question mark. Gizzards, Buckner, Harley Noer, and to Infinity Beyond, I think have really good shots just because how consistency. Um, Again, I think only reason I don't have Grant higher than Joe is because the injuries at quarterback. But um, I think both teams are very consistent and will make a run and be in the playoffs when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, if you're, I know you're having some technical issues going on, but last one on the players. Do you have a player or player or two that you're betting big on for the rest of season?
I love the Miami. Anybody in Miami now? Luckily, I have Hill. Um, I think Hill
Yeah,
will end
hopefully
up
Achan's
have
not hurt too long.
probably one of the best wide receiver seasons. Yeah, the speed and playmaker ability from Miami is just crazy. I think he does really well. Anybody in Miami right now, I think is just if you don't have Miami players, find a way to get some of those people on your team because I think that offense, as long as Tua is healthy, um, kind of that's the big one right there. This is kind of what the Dolphins did last year, and then Tua got hurt, and that kind of dropped. So we will see, but I think anybody on the my offense, Dolphins, I think it might be the first time in a couple of years that I can remember they may finish with a QB one and Q and wide receiver one in fantasy football. I think
Uh oh. Guys, we're just leaving this in. Technical issues here, but we're working through it. And appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, comment something funny below. Brian, this is for you. So, Jory's betting big on Miami, and Grant and Joe.
just
Your phone cut out there again, Jory. So sorry about that. We caught the tail end of it, but let's switch to the next one so we can try to get you wrapped up here before your internet goes out for
finish up
good.
yet.
So we're both wearing. Well, we saw earlier in the video. I know you were wearing your Rangers gear. We got Game 3 tonight of the ALDS. Rangers trying to go for a third straight win to go to the ALCS for the first time since 2011. So we know the big story in baseball this year was the rules changes, right? The pitch clock, bigger bases, a couple other ones that are a little bit more small. Now, both of us are commissioners, so I want to hear your thoughts on rule changes. Specifically, a couple examples being free agent acquisition budget or FAB, and also multi-week playoff matchups where the playoffs are multiple weeks, so that a certain team doesn't necessarily get the benefit of one bad week, for example. But what are your thoughts there? And are there any other rule changes that you have considered? Maybe.
lower teams, lower teams, lower teams not doing too hot. Get first waiver wires. But I think I like the Fab thing. You can really,
You're oh, oh, he was gonna carry my water for me and tell you guys why Fab is great, and it's actually makes it even and makes it a lot better. Multi-week playoff matchups, I'm on the fence about. I think that could be a good thing, but TBD on that one. I'm going to finish up this one a little bit more abruptly than we normally do. Thanks to Jory for trying. I know he's having some Wi-Fi issues, so appreciate him trying. I'm going to send him a note here just so he knows. So shout out to Jory too for doing the show today. As far as that goes, let me just finish up the show here by carrying out the audio, or sorry, the we're center stage now, so you got just me for the rest of this episode. So let me finish up by passing out this week's awards. So week 5 awards this week brought to you by X Videos, sponsored by Victoria's Secret. The bench of the week this week, we talked about it just a second ago. DJ Moore, 49 points on the bench for Jory. Tough break. Was hoping to see how that matchup would have turned out with him starting, but I think we mentioned earlier that despite him starting, if they both set perfect lineups, Jory would have lost by what looks to be around 0.3 points. So tough break for him, but 2 big outputs there from Jory and Nick. Start of the week, I have to give it to, I hate giving him credit because he doesn't really know how to handle praise. But Joe Wise, Jets D starting against Denver, gave him 19 points, picked up off the waiver wire, I believe. So great start for Joe, great job putting in the Jets D on his way to scoring 173 points. And finally, the manager of the week. It was Nick with 218 points, setting a TCL record, rules adjusted for 10 teams. But nonetheless, a TCL record, 218 points. So congratulations to Nick. First time ever in TCL history that a team has scored 200 points. So really, really good to see their really impressive performance for the H-Town Rubdowns, who are now 2-3 and back in the playoff hunt. Finally, for week 6, we have my matchup to watch. I was going to ask for Jory's, and I didn't get a chance to. So my matchup to watch is going to be my matchup versus Grant. It's 4-1 versus 5-0. Number 1 versus number 2. I lost Justin Jefferson, as we mentioned earlier, so we'll see how the team bounces back from that one. And then he lost Anthony Richardson. I probably lost I probably lost my player a little bit longer than him, but we'll see how it turns out with the HN injury. Could lead to some better outputs out of some of my other guys. So intrigued by that one. And then just off the cuff for week 6, the other one to look out for, really a lot of close matchups here. So a lot of 50-50s, a lot of 51-49. So really excited to see how the matchups play out this week. But I think for my other one is going to be Taylor versus Andy. Taylor trying to get his second straight win. Andy trying not to drop to 2-4 and get right in the square of that beer mile crosshair. So should be an intriguing matchup. And then for my lock of the week, put your bets in now before the spread moves too much, is going to be Nick to take down Aaron, Fappy Baby, in the matchup later this week. So already a 60-40 split nearly in terms of odds or projections on the odds. So that's my lock of the week. Once again, thanks everybody for watching. I know we had a lot of technical issues, so if you stuck through the whole episode, I really appreciate it. But don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. And thanks again for watching. Y'all have a good one. Peace.